Alrighty, so we're looking at E17's second match. Volskaya starts off on defense, goes Orissa, right? Ends up having a Torb. And I think the other guy is a DPS that's a McCree. Now, this is a pretty decent comp, right? Hog, Moira, Mercy. You got a lot of heals. The Hog can protect against things that want to get close to you. He can utilize your halt to get easier hooks. Torbjorn turrets like Orissa shields, and they also deter enemies from getting too close to you. And then McCrees do a good job of, again, stunning anything that gets too close. So Orissa doesn't like things all up in your face because you have a giant meaty crit headbox, and you don't have a strong close range option. You just have your gun, which requires a lot of tracking, and at close range that becomes harder. So you're setting up two things. One, this shield is too aggro because it's all the way out here, which means anyone on this side can shoot at your shield, and your team will not be able to shoot back, which means eventually your shield is going to go down and there's nothing you can do about it. Two, your teammate just picked Torbjorn. It was up here in the message box. But it's going to take him at least 10-15 seconds to get back. So, not really. You don't want to be playing this too aggro because you're already a man down. So you're better off playing back a little bit more so you don't get steamrolled quite as much. Now you know they have a Junkrat. Junkrat will shred through your shields pretty much as fast as you can keep them up. So you have to play a bit more passive and in positions where he has to expose himself to destroy your shield. The halt into the water works, but you need to shoot it about 3 seconds into the round, not 10. Again, really aggro shield. They have a lot of natural cover here, and they're going to be able to destroy your shield, and your shield's already at half health, and you just put it down. You need to be trying to make your shields last as long as possible in order to do the best that you can with Orissa. The good news is they are running an offensive Orissa, which means you should, in theory, win the shield war, because you can set up your shield, have your shield come off cooldown, whereas the second Orissa throws her shield, hers is on cooldown. So you have a bit more sustain with your shield, and you don't have to worry about like a Rhine just walking in and murdering you, or a monkey just jumping over him. So, in terms of matchups you could have wanted, this is probably the best. This guy pops off right now. He clutches first. Your Hog also goes way too deep, especially considering you just dropped a healer. So you have a hurt Hog, because even if he takes no damage while taking a breather, he's still only going to be at like 400. But considering he's actively taking damage right in front of Orissa, a Zen, he's got a Discord and a Junk, he's not going to be anywhere near half health, so he's not going to be much help. So, try to halt to buy your time. This is way too far. This is not going to help you at all, and this is actually going to help the enemy team, because they're going to walk through your shield and murder you. And there's not much you can do. So, Hanzo killed your Torbjorn, who finally showed up, and then Junkrat got your McCree. GG. Funnily enough, you should actually die here a lot quicker than you do, but your Moira gives her everything to keep you up. Right, so there's an example of a too far up shield. You did it to her, and then she did it right back to you. And because her shield was so far up, when you walked through and put your shield down, there was really nothing she could do, because her shield isn't protecting her team, and it lets you. So Junk walks in, murders you, your Hog dies.
Get this shit off my screen. Why is it on my screen, dude?
This little mouse thing is from the Discord overlay, from what I hear. So if you disable the Discord overlay, it should go away.
Why is... Fuck.
Now, I agree with you in that you shouldn't push out to fight this, because your team is down both your tanks, and you guys aren't going to make it there in time to contest. I agree with you staying back, but because you have 4 people up here, and only 2 of you behind, by the rules of democracy, you should in some way try to assist your team. Now, the great thing about Orissa is that you don't have to be involved or close to have an impact. So we'll see how this plays out, and then I'll tell you what you could do differently. You back all the way up, which is fine. And then you decide to throw it out a shield. So, what you could have done, because that started, let's see, 20, so yeah, you're at 6:54 on the clock. Oh no, even sooner, I'm sorry. So let's just say 3 o'clock on the dot, right? What you can do is just kind of look up here, yeet your shield out there, hope it protects your team. If it doesn't, oh well, you tried. If it does, yay, your team comes back to you. But these guys realistically are just feeding their brains out. Because enough time would have passed, your shield would be on cooldown in like 1 second. And then you'd be starting your next shield cooldown. So by the time you throw out this shield, you'd have had 4 seconds left on the second cooldown while still having the shield. So that, I'm not going to say it could have saved them, because you can't cure stupidity, but it would have given them a better chance. This guy's an idiot. That is the correct response. So you'll notice now that your shields are not in the choke. And so in order for them to do damage to your shield, they have to have some kind of line of sight, which means that your hog can hook them, you can halt them, and your team can shoot at them. And this gives you a much better fighting chance. You hear the junk tire go off, your fortify was already off cooldown from when the ults were coming, you just throw down a shield, you didn't have halt. What I would say is, in this situation, what your ultimate goal is, since it's unlikely you'll be able to destroy the tire, and excuse me, the reason I say it's unlikely is because there are so many directions the tire can come from on this point that it's kind of unrealistic to expect you to be able to do anything about it. So the tire can drop down this platform and around the corner. The tire can go through this platform, drop down right on top of you. Through this platform, drop down right behind you, right? It can come all the way over the backside and into you, or it can just come straight around the corner and murder you. Way too many options for you to realistically have a chance of stopping it. So your goal there shouldn't be to necessarily destroy the tire or, to clutch the day, but to minimize the losses, right? Your Moira is hiding behind this wall, so if the tire gets her, she's dead. Your Torb is all the way back here. If the tire goes after him, he's dead. But with both of these players, if the tire goes after them, that's only 1 kill. You and the McCree are very close to each other, and so if I was you, what I would have done is walk through my shield. And yes, this would expose you to a lot of damage from the rest of the team, but it meant that either the junk would have to make a choice, either go for you or go for the McCree. And so no matter what he did, he would get 1 kill with his tire, yes, but that would be better than getting 2 kills with his tire, and so you're kind of in a damage mitigation mode. Alright, so your Moira and Hog kind of clutch this out for your team. I like that you came from this direction to contest the point instead of coming from this way, because your shield orients on the way that you throw it, and so throwing it from this way is much more effective when you get a nice U-shaped shield here than if you came in through it from the side, where you would get kind of a angled shield that doesn't cover much. So I don't know if you did this intentionally or not, but it's a good idea. You've started using your halts to displace the enemy into line of sights of your team a lot more, and it's a very effective thing that you're doing. When I first watched this VOD, I genuinely believe that part of the reason you're able to stabilize on second is because of how well your shields go and how well your halts go. So that is something you do very well on this point, and I want to commend you on that. I don't know how I feel about that shield. You didn't really need it. At the time, I mean, your shield was half, but you weren't really in danger of it going down anytime soon. And then you kind of throw it too far to the left here. So then this placement is really hurting your team, because that's like a third of your shield that is just being wasted. And you don't have a ginormous shield to begin with. So you got to make sure that each placement counts. If I can actually boot up a game real quick. Oh no. And then we'll change it to Volskaya. What you want to try to do as Orissa is meet your shield with the edge of the walls. I really should turn down ability cooldowns, but if you throw it like right here, see, even that wasn't great, but you see how much more space it has. And then it also curves around to the side a lot more, which means that if someone gets over here, your team can still be safe and behind a shield. Right? And so if we throw it right here, that's perfect. Technically, yes, you could get headshot by a Widow from there. So ideally it should be like a little bit to the left, but this gives you the most shield with the least wastage. The other thing is, say you've got your shield up and you're waiting. You know the enemy team is going to push at some point. Stand right above it, look up, yeet it. It starts the cooldown of your shield, and then by the time it lands, you have 2 seconds left until a new one. So if they decide to really burst it and focus it, well, you've got another one ready again. So in times where you have downtime and you know they're going to be pushing, and say your shield isn't at 100, but you're like, you know what, let me just throw down a new shield. Just get right on top of it, throw it up, okay. Alright, you still got your old shield. New shield shows up in 2. Boom. There we go. New shield. Alright, new shield is taking a lot of damage, or we're in a bad spot. They flanked us. Reposition. Boom. That's the other thing. You always want to try to 45 degree or 90 degree your shield. So in a situation where you're taking it from both directions, you want to 45 it. So that way you get the most coverage. If you go too hard one way, you end up giving like no coverage from this direction unless they're inside your shield. But then with people with like hitboxes like Orissa where they're very big, my head is probably poking out right now and I could probably get shot. So I have to play it like way back over here, and then I've got this annoying little thing on point. So just try to 45 it so it covers as much as possible. Never, ever, ever, ever do that as Orissa. Even if the hog gets over to the other side, you're still letting the Zenny, the Anna, the Orissa, and the Junk all spam the rest of your team for free. I think the Hanzo as well. Yeah. So, to stop the hog, you've let everyone else on their team do damage to your team. That's not a worthwhile trade. So that's a very good halt, right? You see that he's trying to leave. You don't want him to leave. You don't want him to get the health back. You halt him back. Boom. Like I said, your halts towards the second part were phenomenal. Get this guy off the high ground. If you're here and he's buzzing around up here and you're fighting, you need to just kind of pull him. That was actually a really shitty halt. But you need to just yank him off that, right? Just shoot it right here. Pull him off however you need to. You can shoot it in the middle. You have a whole bunch of options. Don't let him sit for free up there and just kind of murder your team from the high ground. I see pop bongos. Really good halt. Ends up killing the Anna. Honestly, there's not much to say about this. You're doing fine. Calling out targets would be helpful for your team, and calling out where people are, but that just falls under communication. In terms of gameplay, there's little things, but no major glaring errors in this play. Like I said, I think on B, you really stabilized well, and you were a big part in that. Preemptive fortify. But when you're up against a Reaper, that's kind of the right call to make. 'Cause if he does make it through your shield, he can put you down pretty fast, so not a bad thing. You did still have halt though, so I think your first choice would have been to halt him back through the shield, and then if he makes it through again, then fortify. But either way, that's kind of more nitpicky. So, in the Anubis video, I talked about how Junkrat is annoying and that he can do damage without ever being in any kind of danger. This is a perfect example. He is chunking the crap out of your shield.
How did I miss all those? Into the iris.
That was a risky halt, and then that could have saved the Zen, but right now they're just kind of trickling in, so I don't have much to say. You've kind of just been racking up kills without having to worry about it. That's a really good bongo placement. I like that you were here and then you're like, I'm gonna back up, drop it down, and then drop bongos. Because from here you cover all of point, right? The bongos are also down below the steps, so it's a slightly smaller hitbox, and then if they're pushing from over here, they can only see half of it, which is good. And then plus the fact that you're in front of it makes it even harder. But wherever they are on point, your team gets covered, and it's hard for the enemy to destroy it. That's like a textbook Volskaya B bongo. Not a textbook example of where, like, how you should be doing your bongos. Tore some more on the floor, saved your team, and then you kill Zen. I mean, this is just kind of a big trickle fest, so. Let's go to the second half, where you go Diva. Now, Diva is a hero that it's incredibly easy to be bad at. It's kind of hard to be okay at, and it's pretty much impossible to be perfect at, because there are always aspects of Diva's kit and playstyles that you can be improving on. And so what I mean by playstyles is Diva can play in quite a couple ways. She can play as a peeler, whereby she just, plays pretty passive, uses her defense matrix to cover her team, really just goes after whatever's attacking her, her healers or her squishies. She can be a bruiser, where she just gets up in people's face and just goes ham. She can be kind of a high ground contester, like on Dorado B, and that when you have that little balcony, and then the first point was over here, and it comes up and around, then it goes back in. This high ground up here, if you have a Diva up here, anytime the enemy tries to jump up here, she just boosters into him and then comes back, knocks them down off the high ground. Easy, you pretty much permanently have high ground. But there's different playstyles, and you have to learn when to juggle between them as well. That's what makes Diva so hard. You can start off playing passive, and then you see an opening, so you go in, you start brawling, and then you kind of go back, peel for your healers, support your main tank. There's a whole lot you can be doing. So you kind of walk over here. Now, I get that you got halted and you didn't know what was coming, but you did not need to use all of this defense matrix to eat 2 junk grenades. That is big waste. Oh, can't use text. I'm not rich. So, in terms of importance for D.Va's defense matrix, you have ults. You should always be trying to eat ults. You should be trying to track when the enemy has ults and when they're likely to use them. So you know, oh, if we're about to push, this fair is probably going to barrage us right as we come through this choke, because it's easy to hang up here and just barrage down, and it's hard for our team to flick up 90 degrees and shoot her. Right? Next, you have what I'm going to call burst. So this is things like hook, storm arrow, helix rockets, high damage abilities that happen in a short time frame that have a risk of killing your teammates. Next, you'd have what I'd say are like key abilities. I don't really know what to call these because they're not necessarily ult chargers, but they can be. But these are things like nade, fire strike, sleep, Moira ball. If you constantly eat a fire strike, you're basically halving the enemy Ryan's ult build rate, because if he can't get any fire strike damage, his ult rate is completely gimped. If you can eat the Ana nade every time, not only is it stopping you from getting purple, but it's also stopping her teammates from getting extra heals. Moira balls, those things are annoying, and you should always be eating those just because they just do a lot of little chip damage, but they also give her ult incredibly quickly. Anything past this, anything that doesn't fall under these, is what I like to call trash. There are exceptions to this, and there's always going to be exceptions to everything I say, but this is on general how it should go. Priority. Numero 1, ults, if you can. 2, burst abilities. If someone gets hooked, fly in. As soon as they get reeled in, just hold right click over them. You'll save them. Right? Key abilities, always useful if you can to eat those. And then trash damage. Right now, you've used almost all of your DM for trash damage. That is not good. Alright, so then you move Moira. Good one. But because you've eaten so much trash damage, you now have 0 defense matrix trying to push this choke. I don't like this play. You have no backup. You have no idea what you're pushing into. And your Ryan could probably do with the support, because you've already seen a Hog, a Junk, and an Orissa, and that's a lot of spam. And by just using a little bit of DM at a time, you can greatly increase how long Ryan's shield is up for, which in turn can keep your Ryan alive. So your Ryan gets a big pick, and you finally talk to your team, but then your Ryan dies because your healers aren't with him, you're not with him, he's pretty much alone. Now here, I really don't like this flanking play. I don't think I can explain adequately why. The Torp turret right now is in this little corner. So that means the Torp turret covers from here back and from here over. So all of this is covered by Torp turret. You have 2 options of dealing with that. Using your defense matrix, a very precious resource that you only have 2 seconds of, or, radical idea, move somewhere it can't shoot you. This is not a great Torp turret spot. You have so many locations you can be at and still be safe. You decide that you're going to fight this when you're already in what's basically a 2v1, because this turret probably aims better than this Torp. So, You decide to attack the turret, and while you're there you also pick up the mini, which is not a bad decision, and I say that in terms of you've already made a monumentally bad decision. So in terms of salvaging that, this is the second least bad of the options you have. The better one would have been to just line of sight the turret and focus the torb, because the turret won't do any damage if it can't see you. And so then you get into a fight, but then Orissa's here, Lucio's here, you're already in a 3v1, your Rhine just died. Yay, you got the turret, but he could probably throw down another pretty soon. You got demeched. All the while, you've not even gotten a smidgen of progress. You dink the ever-loving crap out of that Orissa, and that was seriously some disgusting pistol work, because a lot of those was headshots. And then you decide that you're not done, so you go after this torb, you dink him like crazy. And I like that even though you had your mech available, you didn't stop what you were doing because he was so low. And you keep kind of shooting him, but then the hog is getting you low, so you're like, I probably do better in my mech. Now, it's great that you're using your defense matrix to keep yourself alive, but it would probably do better keeping the Mercy alive, who flew in to pocket you while you were being suicidal. You didn't, and so your Mercy dies. And then here's the other part that I don't like about this. You have just given them 600 points of damage in terms of ult charge. So this Torb is probably close to ult. This Hog is probably close to ult. And what you've gained out of this is not even one tick. And a lot of people on your team dead.
I tried that.
Don't try that. Not unless you have someone with you, like a Tracer, like a Genji, a Monkey, someone. You can't be operating alone.
I'm surprised we could get made too.
You should be surprised. Yeah, I would be incredibly surprised if you got a tick. Alrighty, so you get a pick on the Torb gets a pick on your Widow, your Rhine is dead. Your Mercy reses the Widow. You should be over here, near your healers, near your team, and out of LOS of the shield. Because the shield there, you have to burn through it to do damage to them, whereas if you're on this side, they either have to leave their shield, in which case you're both eating damage from each other, or they have to reposition the shield, in which case it's in a bad spot and you can abuse that. You've just given like another 400 points of ult charge. So you've given a total of right now 1600 ult charge to the enemy team by just eating free damage that you don't need to be.
Oh, awkward.
Big bait. Both your healers see you're low because you're feeding your brains out. They come over to you and you come over to where you should have been in the first spot. Okay. So you saw, I don't know if you DM because you saw the hog or you DM because you saw the hook. Either way, you should wait a second because you're low on DM, right? You've got maybe 3/4 of a second. And if you get hooked, DM isn't going to save you. Right? So I think you DM because you saw the hog. I think that's what this ended up being. But because of that, you ran out of DM and didn't actually save your Mercy. What saved your Mercy was this guy potatoing and hitting you for a good 100 and something damage. right? So now you're just kind of in a poke phase, but your Ryan's back. Stop DMing right now. Your Ryan is in front of you. He has a fresh shield. He just respawned. He has a nice 2,000 health. You need your DM back. Alright, they beat drop. They bongo. Eat the Mario Ball. Great. But now, again, you have no DM. Unlockers. Alright, you reposition for like a mech back, that's okay. So one thing I'm not noticing you're doing is as Diva, your missiles have knockback. And so, or not your missiles, I'm sorry, your boosters have knockback. And so if you see someone in a dangerous situation where an enemy is too close to them, what you can do is fly into them, bump them back, and then fly back to your team. And this will give your teammate a little bit of breathing room. And this is especially helpful against Torbjorns, Reapers, anything that you don't want to be all up in their face of. If you want to take it like 2.0, you can go in while missiling and then just kind of go back to your team and then DM. But you want to be careful because your DM uses up like a quarter at a time, a little bit less, maybe a fifth. And so if anything, you want to just kind of feather it where you eat like a key ability and then you let it recharge. And then eat a key ability, you let it recharge. You never want to be like hard holding down defense matrix unless it's against an ult of some kind, like attack visor or a barrage or a, you know, whole hog, something like that. You don't ever want to just be like, oh, they're shooting our shield, I'm gonna hold down defense matrix, because then if they whole hog right after, well, too bad, sorry Ryan, your shield is done, you're gonna have to wait for me to get this back. I will say your ult was actually phenomenal coming up. This was a really good ult. Alright, so you get Coalescence, so time to be aggro, eat the Mario Ball. So on both parts of this game, your ult actually secures the fight. Dropping Lucio and the Junkrat means your Ryan doesn't have as much spam, which means he can be a lot more aggro. Right? Means they don't have as much heals and as much speed, so they can't get away from you guys as fast. And then on top of that, your Moira has to try to keep up both a Hog and an Orissa. When you are boosting into someone, hold down missiles. They do a lot of damage, and since you're getting closer, it's just what you do. You're going in, I'm gonna hold boosters, and I'm gonna shoot, and boom, right? And that will destroy little squishy targets, right? So you always want to be just booster in, right? And then on top of that, if you can, because your knockback does a little bit of damage, and your melee does 30 damage. So if you booster in, missile, and then right as you get to him, I totally butchered that. You booster and missile, and then when you get close, you melee, right at the very end. Right as you bump them, and your missiles expire. And then that does like a little burst of damage, which should finish off if they're still alive. So, you use defense matrix against Mario, which doesn't work. And so you're already starting this fight with 3/4 defense matrix. And then you don't defense matrix the Torbjorn, who's right up in your face, melting you as quick as can be. But you manage to open that up, and your Bastion sets up, your Ryan gets a big slam. It's cleanup at this point. You kind of I don't know if you're looking for the junk or hiding from the ult, but either way, it's fine. Missiles. You have them. Use them. And you should pretty much have this, because it's just tricklers at this point.
We're gonna lose.
You're not gonna lose. They're trickling in. Not like this whole thing, you haven't used defense matrix. Good peel. How about your bastion? Easy. Bro. You have full health, a healer on you, all of your cooldowns, and you do not bot after a 40 HP Junkrat. Are you kidding me? Press shift, press missiles, murder his stupid face right now. Murder, murder, there you go. He should have died a lot before then. It should have been a lot safer for your Mercy to res that. You need to get into the habit of chasing people who are weak and trying to get away. Like, you were here in this junk, if you just boosted and then like just shot at the ground near him, he would have died, right? And your Rhine might have lived, which meant you would have had res for this next fight. When you were up here and you're fighting that Lucio and then you see he's at like 50 health, just boost, and then if you need to get out, well then just defense matrix out. Yeah, you had to use a little bit more than necessary, but if you secure the kill on the Lucio there, that would have been the Junkrat that died right here, the Lucio that died right here. They're 2 down, you have 6. 6 beats 4. Instead, the Lucio lives, he gets out, no worries. So, it's good that you defense matrix when your Rhine shield is down, but no, you know, I'm not even going to say anything. You helped get your team across a dangerous area and to safety by defense matrix. That's fine. Ideally, you shouldn't have to use that much, but that's nitpicking. Huge. And then that's the game. So, your bombs are actually really good. I wouldn't worry about your bombs. But you need to worry about your defense matrix. Diva, personally, is quite exhausting to play because you have to think so much. You have to keep track of where the enemy team is at, what key abilities you need to be blocking. Did their Roadhog just hook someone? Are we trying to res someone? Do I need to protect my team as they cross this ground? There's a lot you need to use defense matrix for, and there's not a lot of defense matrix to go around. So, to become a much better diva, it's all about this. You also need to not be afraid of the enemy when you have 600 health, all of this, and all of this. You can be a lot more aggro on lone targets that are at low health. But yeah. That's it. Take care.